So we're here in the depths of the Amplifier Bar with John Corabi and Paul Miles. John, on the last day of the tour, how's it been?
Interesting. I'm loving the weather you guys are having here.
We've got the worst weather in Perth, I think, for 60 years.
Well, and it's weird because, we do the Fahrenheit thing in America, only because we need to be different. But anyway, when I was looking online, it said that it was going to be maybe 60 degrees in all the places, Melbourne and Brisbane. And my phone absolutely lied to me because it's been much colder.
Yeah, I remember getting into Sydney, he just had the one jacket and a shirt and he was freezing his ass off. It was really cold in Sydney, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was cold.
Well, at least Nashville's warm. So
yeah, well, Nashville, I still haven't figured out how you do the conversion thing. I think it's
double and then add 20 or something, I think.
Yeah, so when I left Nashville, it was 94. So if I take 30 off of that, that's 64. So it'll be 32. So, or is that right?
Yeah,
32.
32 C. That sounds like a summer temperature.
Yeah,
it sounds pretty good. So by the time you fly back from here via LA, it'll pretty much be the same time you left.
Yeah, I should. Yeah, I think I leave tomorrow, and I get back. The flight it's we got to work something out where we get Australia a little closer to the States.
Yeah.
Because I leave tomorrow and I think I arrive September 4th.
It was always my fear. I've done a few trips.
It's like the longest flight ever.
Coming back from the States, you actually lose a day in the air. And it was always my fear that would be my birthday. I'd miss my birthday because I'd be traveling in the air. But touch wood, it hasn't happened.
There's some great stories in the book. And I know that over the years we've talked about some of those things. What was the most surprising thing that cropped up for you? Was there anything that jumped out that you thought, hey, I haven't thought of that for years?
It's funny. There's still, we were talking the other day and there's just all these stupid little things that have happened over the course. I'm 63 now. So, you go back and you think of dumb shit you did as a kid and, whatever. But, we told most of the stories, and I have to be honest with you, a majority of the stuff was prompted from questions he was asking me. If he didn't ask, I probably would have not put half of the stuff that was in the book. He did the research, and he was like, I'm gonna pin him against the wall right now. I'm gonna ask him about this time. You know what I mean? So a lot of it was just stuff that he researched and saw online and asked me if there was any truth to it or whatever. But I'm always thinking there's other things that even we're talking. He's like, that's not in the book. I go, it isn't? Oh well.
Yeah, so many stories, that's for sure. And fans have been asking me on this tour, does it cover this or does it cover that? And I've been saying it covers everything. It actually goes from the time that he was born all the way through to how he thinks he might die. So it really does cover the full spectrum, all the bands he's been in, everything.
It's fantastic. And it's great that tonight we're going to hear those songs from your career as well. What's the earliest song you're going to be playing for us tonight?
Say what now?
What's the earliest song, the oldest song you're going to be playing for us?
The oldest thing I'm going to be playing? Wow. Probably one of the covers.
Yeah. Well, there's no Angora, there's no Fragile, which people don't really know about.
I kind of avoided that anyway.
Yeah.
But,
I guess the Scream.
Yeah, the
would
Scream
be,
probably.
One of the first of John's bands that he's known for as such that he'll play songs from.
Yeah. So how did the tour come about? I mean, it's coming nicely that we get the book before anyone else.
It just kind of happened that way. The book was supposed to come out June. Well, actually, initially
it was going to be earlier. Yeah,
and then they pushed it back to June 14th. And then Danny just happened to call and say, hey, I'd like you to come over. And, you know, it just kind of coincided with everything. So,
Yeah.
Again, Paul was on the phone and he was like, we need to have some books over here. And he really kind of rode the publishing company pretty hard. I was like, I just put an email in and said, hey, it'd be great if we could have him. And I kept my fingers crossed, but he kept at it. And as it turned out, we had, 150 books signed. And we sold them already.
And you sold them all. You haven't even got copies yourself.
No, we don't. No, I actually asked John. One of the shows might have been in Sydney. I said, do you want to keep a book aside for yourself so you can take it, so you've got it? And he's like, let's just let the fans have at it, you know? Yeah. So, yeah, we don't even have a copy. They're all sold, which is what we prefer at this point. We'd rather fans be reading the stories and enjoying it. It's why we did it, you know? So.
Yeah. I mean, it's fantastic. I know I've been bugging John for years and years and years to write a book. I think the very first interview we did about a dozen years ago.
Yeah, well, and you know what? I started writing a book years ago. And then the more, I didn't really care for the way it was coming out. And then I tried another friend, and he was a very intelligent guy. And he was writing his stuff. And he sent me a couple chapters. And the thing that I didn't like about it, which is something Paul and I discussed in the very beginning, was the terminology and the way he worded everything was not how I speak. And so I just kind of put it to bed. Now, the other thing that kind of always, and again, I said this to Paul in 2019 when I was here, he brought it up again and said, crap, you should do a book. And I'm like, I don't want to do a book, because I feel like everybody and their grandmother has done a book. And I feel like I'm going to be the guy. I'll put my book out and, all these, whatever, what I'm talking about. The fans will be on there like, he's riding a bandwagon. So I was just kind of like, I didn't want to do it. But he said something to me that was kind of resonated with me a little bit. He said, you had some chapters in the dirt and people kind of got to know you a little bit, but not really. And like, I guess it's like I've been this guy that kind of does new music, and I'll put the record out or I'll get ready to do a tour. And it's like I come out and I do some social media stuff and I'm like, hey, how are you guys? Good. Come see me play. Boom. And then I vanish again. And he's like, you're kind of like this unknown thing that nobody really knows, jump in anytime.
Yeah.
Because I'm basically saying what you said to me, but it was
in reverse.
It's just. So I thought about it and I was like, yeah, okay, maybe he's right.
Yeah, it didn't take that much to twist his arm in the end. But there was definitely some
I was worried about it, because even when I went home, we talked on the phone, and I was still like, I was asking some friends in Nashville after speaking with them. I'm like, what do you think? Do you think, would it be dumb if I did a book? No.
And John was really concerned that, through his previous attempts, that it wouldn't sound like him and it wouldn't be true and authentic and stuff like that. And that's why we spoke about that. I asked him why those previous attempts didn't come to fruition, so that I wouldn't fall into the same pitfalls, as those past times. So it was really important to John that it was true and authentic in his voice. And that's exactly how I envisaged it anyway, was Crab standing in front of you as you're reading the book with him actually saying it to you, right?
The wonderful thing is, of course, you've actually narrated the audiobook as well.
Yeah, so and even there, there were still some things that were being tweaked, because we were kidding about the difference in the language. The English American and English Australian there's like certain words that he uses that I would never use.
And even things like where you put a swear word in a sentence, you know, we might put it at the end more, whereas he would put it earlier in that sentence. You know, just things like that. It's I wouldn't say it like that. So
he did get one word in. There's a picture of me and my mother when my son was being born, and he got a little Australian on me because the photo says me and mum at the hospital. I'm like, all right, I'll let him have that one
instead of mom.
Mom,
what's a mom?
Or my mother.
You got it in there for the Australians. I mean, I think the beauty of the book, which I haven't read yet, is going to be getting that whole story, like you said, from those early days to today. When you're putting out, I actually think those last two singles you put out have been some of my favourite work for years.
I appreciate that. Yeah, you know what? It's slow going for me because I learned to use Pro Tools, and you know, it's funny. Like I work with Marty Fredrickson, and he'll call me and he'll say, "Hey, I think that second verse is too long. You need to edit that down." And I go, "Okay, cool." But then there's like these WAV files, you know, or like these WAV. And I'm looking at it and I go, shit, I'm not even going to tackle that. So I just go delete.
Start again.
And I take it all the way back to the beginning and I rebuild the drums and I rebuild the whole thing again. I can get the stuff in. I just don't know how to move shit around like they do. But, so it takes me a little longer, but
I love
it's
the last
working.
two singles as well.
Yeah, we just need another pandemic for you to be able to work out and move the stuff around.
Oh, dude! Don't even joke about that. Yeah, we don't need any more pandemics. Like, I'm just happy to I finally got back to work. I'm in Australia playing for you guys.
We went for a walk in Sydney over the Sydney Harbour Bridge. I said, "Have you ever walked over the Harbour Bridge?" So we went and did that one day, and we were talking on there about, you know, the pandemic and stuff like that. And it's just good to be, you know, seeing shows again, and, you know, for him as a musician to be on the other side of the world on a tour again.
And it's wonderful for us in Perth as well. I mean, we've had so little since the lockdown. You're John. I think you're one of the first international artists I'll have seen. So,
and the thing of it is, though, I do now. It's really got nothing to do with you, but I'm quoting Danny here. You know, the
promoter,
the Perth folks. Like, I've talked to a few promoters now that mentioned even Adelaide. A little bit. Yeah. Adelaide. And I gave them shit last night a little bit. And I said, listen, man, you guys have been at home for the last 2.5 years now, whining and bitching that you can't go to shows.
Amen.
And now you have the opportunities to go to shows and you're not showing up.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So these promoters like Danny had an act out here. He was just, I forget who it was, but he said, day before there was no tickets sold.
Yeah.
And he goes, but that's why all the Perth audience asks for bands to come here. Nobody ever comes here. But then when they do, they don't come.
We have 3 times as many people complain as actually show up for shows, which is crazy.
Yeah, and it's like, if you're going to, you know, I have this thing, it's like, you have the right to complain if you're going to do something about it.
Yes, exactly.
If you're not, shut the up.
It's been one thing I do have to ask you.
I clean that up.
One thing I do have to ask you about the book, because I haven't read it yet, is the Astoria show in London mentioned?
Oh, yeah.
Is the Astoria show in London mentioned? Yes.
That's where I first saw you.
Oh, really? Oh, we talked about this before.
So you were one of the 3,000 odd people?
Well,
dude, I don't know how big is that place? 2,500 or some shit like that?
Meant to be 2,000. I swear there were more that night.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
Sold out. Yeah.
And I remember the night before, even we were at the. I think we were at a Hard Rock in London. The record label took us there. And I don't think I mentioned this in the book, but I was sitting with the guys and we were having burgers and, you know, whatever. And we're just freaking. We're like, oh man, this is killer. Like, we're in London. This is the Beatles and Zeppelin and, you know, Queen and all these bands. And this kid came over to me and he started talking to me, and I looked at him and he said, John Corabi? And I said, yeah. And he goes, oh, I'm coming. I came for your show tomorrow from Spain.
Wow.
And I just thought that was the biggest deal. Like,
Yeah.
oh my God, they're coming from other countries. And it's like the guy from the record label goes, dude, it's like an hour flight from here. Like, it's not really that big of a deal.
Yeah. Okay.
But I just remember that whole week that we were there, just being in awe of the whole thing.
Yeah.
The whole place.
There's a fun little anecdote about that show as well that you may not realise who else was there that night, but the Ramones. So,
I didn't know that.
yeah, the Ramones were there last night. There's a cool little story in the book about that I think people will enjoy as well.
Nice.
There's so many little great stories in this book.
So the book's out in 3 days' time.
It is next
Hopefully
week,
you'll both get a copy. Hopefully,
Hopefully
I'll get
there's
a
more on
copy
the
as
way.
well. And enjoy the show tonight, guys. I can't wait to see you. Last time I saw you, I think it was Monsters Rock Cruise, 2015. Oh no, it wasn't. It was Melbourne. Last time we played in Melbourne. So
Yeah, we played
3
at
years
Rod Laver Arena with Kiss.
Dead Daises. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And of course, all those stories.
And actually, the hotel that I'm at, we played there as well, right?
Yeah.
I think I actually stayed at the
Yeah.
hotel. I'm not sure, but I think I stayed at that hotel. I can't remember, but I remember sitting on a patio and your Eagles team was in some sort of a championship game or whatever.
Yeah.
And
that was the day I interviewed you and Marco.
yeah, there was a guy who gave me a scarf.
He
He
did,
gave me a green
Yeah.
Eagles scarf, and I'm like, oh, that's my team in Philadelphia,
Blue and
you know.
yellow.
So
Yeah.
he gave me the scarf, and then I wore it into the arena, and all the crew guys, like the people that, you know, backstage crew guys, they were like, oh, hey, you know, and I'm like, oh, shit, okay, I'm gonna take that one off.
They must have been Docker supporters.
I don't know, whatever it was,
Yeah.
but you guys were playing somebody, and it was like some weird championship game, and they were watching it in the bar. I think that patio bar.
Yeah.
And I was sitting outside, and I struck up a conversation with this guy from Perth. And we were just sitting there, and he was talking to me, trying to explain the whole the scoring system, which I didn't understand. Whatever.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it was interesting.
I think this is going to be a really good way to finish out the tour here in Perth.
I think it will.
it's
Nice
been
and
a
low key.
really
Day
good
in
run.
bed for you, John, before you fly back.
Say what now?
A day in bed before you go back. This is going to be raining all day.
Yes, I'm going to sleep like it's my job tonight. So
Well, it should be a great gig. I thank you so much,
Hopefully-
both of you, for your time.
hopefully some Perthians.
Yes.
Perth,
I think, unfortunately for Perth, a lot of people turn up on the door, and I think we're going to see quite a few people come.
And what those people will see is, John's powerhouse vocals on display, because without the backing band, the electric band, playing solo acoustic, the vocals really come through strong. So I think people will certainly appreciate his voice. And his storytelling as well. They'll really see that he's an amazing storyteller, and that flows through into the book as well. So I just can't wait for people to get their hands on the book, read the stories, enjoy it, and if they enjoy it, tell their friends and, share the love. So this guy deserves it.
And I'm just hoping for a Beatles song and Cozy Bell. Maybe.
Oh, Casabella.
Yeah.
You know what's weird? Here's the thing. I tried playing that song in America a few times.
You told me.
And it's just that thing, like it's new. So people can't connect to it yet. They haven't heard it enough. And it's unfortunate because, guys like me, don't actually have access to radio stations like we used to. So you could put a new song out and then go on tour and play it, and there was some familiarity to it already because people were hearing it on the radio. Now it's like streaming. I still have people like, hey dude, what have you been doing? I'm like, well, I'm kind of releasing new music, and you know what I mean? They're like, oh, where? Well, if you kind of read my social media, I've been freaking posting it every other day. You know what I mean? Like, so there's like this weird disconnect.
Yeah.
So you're not hearing it on the radio. So when I play the song live, people just go, what the hell is this? You know what I mean? They don't even know it.
I've taught at least 10 people the words. They're upstairs now. Let's do it. That's right.
Singing now.
Thanks for your
Great
time, man.
voice.
Yeah, it's right. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
All best.
Good to see
Thank
you in Perth. Good to see you back in Perth again.
Cheers. Thanks.
And take care. We'll see you soon.